Hey, Jillian Miller here, one of the Blues and Barbecue chairs. We've been chatting with committee members all day, and right now I'm joined with the other co-chair of the event, Nick Burgess.
Hey, how are you doing, Jillian?
We just thought everyone's tuning in, listening right now to our radio stream for Blues and Barbecue, and we're doing this obviously because we aren't all together in a park today.
It's kind of a weird Blues and Barbecue.
We wanted to cover, why did we cancel the event? What was the thought process? It was a difficult and thoughtful decision, and we did make it early. Credit to Nick leading the conversation on trying to talk about what we would be doing this summer. Early on, it was March when we started having conversations. April was when the decision was made. I was on maternity leave, just had my second child, and we were FaceTiming a few times trying to talk through, what does this mean? How could we pull this off, and is it responsible to even do so?
Obviously, the planning process is really long for us. We really wanted to make that decision before we went too long down that path. Obviously, a global pandemic is no joke, and that would play the biggest part in our decision making, as we saw case counts increase in Iowa. And really thinking about what would this mean for a big festival. And, we make so many little decisions throughout the whole fall and then spring and then early summer, that trying to make decisions when we didn't know what was next, what was happening, everything felt like it was changing day to day and week to week. And it was hard to think, even a month in advance that we didn't have the solid ground to make some of those decisions. Jillian, you've done a lot of big events before, and can you think a little bit about all those little decisions that you make having to run into the big event?
Yeah, well, talking about that planning timeline is kind of what I first go back to, and a big part of that is fundraising. We want to be good stewards of dollars of local businesses, and it takes so many local businesses to put on Blues and Barbecue to keep it free. That's the number one question we get when people are there in person is, how is this free? This is amazing. Well, it's because local businesses all throughout North Liberty and the greater ICR area are giving their dollars. And when it comes to an event, potentially in a pandemic like this, we do have to commit dollars to contracts, pay deposits on things. So we don't want to lose the dollars that sponsors have gifted us, and we want to make sure that if they have other places they need to put those dollars in the community at this time with what the world's facing, that they have that option to do so. And before you get too far into the marketing timeline, before you have, like I said, those contracts, we bring in 17,000 square feet of tents. We bring in 900 chairs, hundreds of tables, a stage. We recruit hundreds of volunteers, and that's not just the dollars. That is our committee's time and efforts when they are already stretched maybe during these times to do that recruitment and organizing as well. It's just really difficult to make those, difficult and costly, to make plans when maybe our efforts need to be into other community initiatives at the time.
It's disappointing and it was a difficult decision, but reflecting back on it and seeing other community events having to RAGBRAI and the state fair and all of these other really big pieces of an Iowa summer have to set aside those events. I'm confident it was the right call.
I am too. When you talk about making that call, if we didn't make the call and we did, and we had put a ton of money into this year and the numbers continue the way they have and the guidelines have continued the way they have for safety, we could have been out a lot of money, and then maybe we wouldn't be able to come back, the same way in 2021. So, we all miss it. We all want to be together, but we're looking for long-term goals here and making sure that we can be there to celebrate when everyone can gather safely, and be back the way people would expect when we can.
Yeah. I think so much of event planning in a normal year is really having a plan B and a plan C and a plan D and a plan E. The big one we always have to worry about, of course, is weather. Yeah. North Liberty and Blues and Barbecue have certainly experienced rainy days before, and you never know what you're going to do when you get into that day. So you have to have those backup plans, right? Like we've got our stash of hundreds of of ponchos for
Yeah.
volunteers. Should we need those?
We set
We
up
make
alerts on
sure.
our phones too,
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
emergency services. We get push notifications that we've set up for tornado watches, warnings, thunderstorm watches, warnings, heat indexes. These are kind of the things behind the scenes that as organizers we charge ourselves with to make sure we're protecting the community. We have communications with public safety and our entire committee of what happens under different watch and warning scenarios, what announcements we might make from the stage, or where we might ask people to evacuate to, which is hard in the middle of a park, and that makes our plans that much more difficult. We've had good weather in the past couple of years. I think the closest call we've had was in 2018. There were quite a bit of storms just south of us, and we had to keep a really close eye on that all day. Luckily, it worked out, and people could enjoy it, but it's nothing we take lightly.
Yeah, I know. And in the early days of the festival, we had a backup rain date. And so why don't we just sort of do that, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's all of that planning that has to go in to coordinate bands and volunteers and food vendors and beer sales, right? All of those pieces, you have to get them aligned on one day. It's really just tough to ask for a second day. Oh, hey, why don't you just come back next week?
Yeah, hey, internationally touring band that's going to move to Kansas City the next night. Can you just hang out and block 2 nights just in case it rains for us? That plus 300 people have volunteered their time for a certain time of day. They might not be available the next day at the same time, and if you make them commit to both, you might not get any volunteers at all. It's definitely arranging so many schedules, and food vendors. I mean, they travel around to festivals all around as well. So kind of is things have to align perfectly for an outdoor event in the Midwest, that's for sure.
It's a struggle, and it's one of those things that we're glad that people put on their calendars. We're glad that they're looking forward to it every year, and that they come out and volunteer, that they come out and eat, that they come out and hang out. But yeah, it's not the sort of thing where you can just say like, let's reschedule for next week. Right. That's Ragbri week. We can't say, oh man, it looks this weekend's perfect. Let's do it this week. Well, no, that's Fourth Fest weekend. So, also scheduling around other local events and state events is important too.
One last thought on how we would have been able to, when you're thinking, well, could we with social distancing still be in the park together? Well, if you've been there before, food lines can get long at some high traffic times. How are you going to put 6 feet between different parties in the food lines? How are you going to have volunteers filling those cups in the beverage garden? How are you going to have thousands of kids go into the same inflatables and keep that hygiene up? How are we going to keep our volunteers, a lot of them in those high-risk populations, safe? These are all things that we just want everyone to know that we thought very carefully about. We have gotten overwhelming support in our decision, and we're glad you're tuning in today to listen instead. And we really hope we're all together in the park for 2021. We will continue to think thoughtfully about all of that and make sure that when we gather, we do gather as safely as possible for our community. I also just want to, put a shout out for what you could look forward to from Blues in the future. As a committee, we've done a lot of soul searching over the past year and especially in the past couple months. And we really want Blues and Barbecue to just be the best summer party that you can expect. That's going to bring you new artists that you want to listen to year round. That's something that's free for you and continues to be free to attend and is fun for all ages. So that's our commitment to you. And our commitment is to also keep you healthy while we do it. So thanks for being a fan, and we do hope to see you again next summer.
With a vaccine.
Yes. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Keep enjoying whatever you're doing, whether you're out in a backyard party, grilling up something, if you've picked out some takeout food. If you're inside, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll get back to the tunes now.
Can I make a request?
Yeah. What's your request?
Okay, great. I would love to have Working Poor by Fantastic Negrito, which he played just a couple of years ago. Was thrilled to, thrilled to have him.
18. Awesome. Okay, well, let's listen to Fantastic Negrito.